Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending where you are. This is John Watkins from PRS Pharmacy Services, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. Joined with Dan Sullivan. Dan, are you there?
I'm here, John. Thanks for having me.
All right. My pleasure. So here's what we're going to do today. I don't want to leave you guys waiting. I appreciate you giving us some time. So a couple quick housekeeping things, then we're going to get started. So Dan's going to talk to you for about 20, 25 minutes or so. We're going to talk about Amazon. I'm sure you all know it's there. At the end of his talk, at the end of the slideshow, we're going to open it up to questions. So what we'll do is, if you look on your menu bar, should be on the right side of your screen, you will see an area where you can click on questions. You can type in questions. So what we'll do is allow you time to type in your questions, and then Dan and or I will answer them on the air. We're talking about Amazon. So what brought this up? Dan and I, we've been working together, our two companies for a couple of years now, and this is just a topic that got brought up right now. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know. This is a very turbulent, just weird time in pharmacy. Amazon's only one piece of that puzzle. You have, of course, lowering reimbursements, DIR fees. And then, Amazon bringing the picture. It feels like everybody's always under attack. And so what we want to do is just talk about Amazon today specifically, and that's what Dan will do. And towards the end, we're going to discuss, some things that we feel are things you can do what you can do as an independent pharmacy owner or worker to help combat this, what you can do to still survive. So that's what we will be doing today. So, Dan, I want to turn it over to you here. Give me 1 second as I give you control here.
Okay.
All right, Dan.
All right, and let me know when you can see my screen there, John.
Okay, I'm good. So again, as you go through this, if you have questions, if you do type out the questions, we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. And without further ado, Dan Sullivan, take it away. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thanks everybody for taking a little bit of time out of your day here to go through this presentation geared towards Amazon and its effect on community pharmacy, its upcoming effect. My name is Dan Sullivan. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Data Rhythm. And Data Rhythm is an inventory control software, cloud-based application. It links with your pharmacy management system and helps you optimize your order points and optimize your inventory levels based on the forecast demand coming at your particular pharmacy or formulary. And so with that in mind of kind of what we do with numbers and inventory and forecasting and looking ahead into the future and preparing yourself for the future and getting some housekeeping chores out of the way, sending back things to the wholesaler to free up capital to do other projects, it kind of goes hand in hand with what Amazon does or how it's affecting community pharmacy and what you can do about it. You'll need some capital to work your way through it, but there's certain angles you can take to defend yourself to what I believe that they plan on doing to pharmacy. So what you see on your screen here is the Death Star. It's from the movie Star Wars, and I picked one of the pictures that is where it's almost done. It's almost being rebuilt, and that's kind of where Amazon is right now. Amazon, in terms of community pharmacy and pharmacy in general, they, as everyone knows, they purchased PillPack back in 2018, at the beginning of 2018, I believe. So with that purchase, they entered into the realm of pharmacy and delivering drugs to patients. So everyone thought, well, that's great. It's just kind of a convenience for certain people that are okay with drugs coming to their front, stoop or to their step, and it's really just about speed and convenience, and there's still going to be a group of people that want to go to the store, and that's probably is true, but you can kind of see that when they first entered into the market with that purchase of PillPack, they quickly changed their stance, and they started kind of building out this weapon, so to speak, of how to not only affect pharmacy but really to affect healthcare in the United States. So with that in mind, just the Amazon reach is vast. It's large. And I found this quote before some things happened. So right when they came out in PillPack and purchased PillPack, Sam Richardson, this health economist from BC, his quote, I think unless Amazon moves much more into the healthcare space, unless Amazon starts offering health insurance plan, I don't see this as having much of an effect on consumers besides convenience. So we are a convenient society, and everybody knows that, especially in America. We want things fast. We want them right now. It's on demand. Just by the market driver that Amazon is and understanding the convenience of society and how they deliver products, they drive markets. And just by saying that they're going to enter into the pharmacy market that day, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid combined lost $13 billion in value just by the purchasing and entering into the pharmacy market of delivering drugs. So then they're intelligent and their alliances kind of come together. So they form an alliance, Amazon does, with JP Morgan Chase and Berkshire Hathaway to form an entity called Haven. And just so everyone knows, Berkshire Hathaway, that's Warren Buffett. JP Morgan Chase is one of the largest bank, both commercial and investment bank in the world. They have ties into everything. And now you have Amazon. So you have three of these really large, capital-driven, too large to fail companies. And they're driven by people that are leading these companies, CEOs and owners that understand profit mode, they understand market drivers, they understand alliances. They form this group called Haven. So understanding the trends and how to deliver on those trends, they are extremely sneaky in the fact that almost everything we do online somehow, some way touches Amazon Web Services. And the speed, the video, the directions, how they keep records, they have a very aggressive and kind of sneaky purchase to partner strategy. What do I mean by that? Well, this is Haven, and this is what they're talking about when they talk about creating this Haven, this healthcare system. Its mission is to partner partner with care providers and to focus on healthcare needs of the 1.2 million Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JP Morgan Chase workers. So you look at this and you can kind of put the two and two together or connect the dots where they come into the market, they buy a pharmacy, they kind of start building this out, they create some intelligent alliances, they have unlimited capital, they start affecting not just pharmacy, but the entire healthcare system. And now they have a nice little sample size of 1.2 million people that they've just taken off of, or they're going to take off of private insurance plans or other insurance plans and put onto their own insurance plan. Or maybe they just partner with them for a while. But eventually, if you partner with this group, it's going to eventually take you over. They have a great little system of let's use these 1.2 million, partner with the people, see how it's working, make our modifications, make some changes, create a new model, and then let that model devour the other ones around it. And that's what Amazon plans on doing through Haven and through their partnerships. So this is just kind of some background, and it all is about convenience and just how Americans live their everyday life. So there are obvious advantages that Amazon has, but there are also some sneaky spots that as a community pharmacist, you can sneak in here and make a very good living and protect yourself from this threat coming at you. But they have unlimited capital. They have worldwide recognition as far as their name goes, and they have perfected the delivery model. They perfected getting something to the consumer as efficiently as possible. Amazon understands, and so do their partners here in Haven, that the real profit lies in controlling the entire life cycle of a product. So whether it's a drug or something else, some kind of durable good, or even intellectual property, if you can control it from conception to when it's first thought of, to when it's actually consumed, and every single point in between, that maximizes the profit along the life cycle or the continuum of a product. So if you think of a drug that's thought of, it's researched, and then it conceptualizes, and then they create that drug, then they test that drug, then they self-test it, then the FDA comes in and they do more self-testing, then they get it approved, then they market it as a brand drug, now it goes to wholesalers, and then so many years down the road, that drug is going to lose its patent, so the people making it create its own generic equivalency, and they start marketing that, and it moves on down all the way to the consumption to where that drug is actually consumed by a patient. If they can control as many of those aspects as possible, that's maximum profit. And that's the key to their entire model, is understanding from conception to consumption. And then you got to be able to niche out your little spot and defend that spot along that timeline. So where does Amazon going, and where are they going to get their slice from when it comes to the U.S. pharmacies? And this is dated, 2015, the data that I pulled here. So, currently there's probably a few more. And I don't think we're losing pharmacies in the U.S. I think we're gaining them. So 67,000 or close to 68,000 in 2018. This was the breakdown: 40% retail, 35% independent, 12 mass retailers, 10 food stores, 3 other. So if you think that, hey, they're only going to go after CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens, they're only going to go after these mass retailers, you're wrong, because there's no way a company like Amazon or an entity like the newly formed Haven is going to ignore 35% of a market. This is not going to happen. They might ignore 3% of a market, but they're definitely not going to ignore 35%. So whether you believe it or not, you are definitely going to be at some time or another in the crosshairs or competing with Amazon and Haven in some way, shape, or form. So just understanding that, when they entered into it, the pharmacy led to insurance. That's going to lead to PBMs or some kind of other model within there that generates profit. And that's going to basically, work out the entire new healthcare system. And they're going to do that. They're going to define the new model, and they're going to try to deliver on a healthcare system. And their 1.2 million are their guinea pigs. And they're so sneaky about it because they're going to work on that for the next 2, 5, 10 years. You're not going to hear about it. Then all of a sudden one day it's just going to be what you do. It's almost, I was sharing with John the other day, the story of how they bought health foods, or they bought Whole Foods, Amazon did. And then that redefined the model. Within 2 years, everyone is thinking, should I have groceries delivered to my house? Every time I go to my grocery store, Wegmans in the Northeast here, there's people there that work for Instacart. And I'm on the fence. I'm almost ready to say, you know what? It's worth a 5 to 10% markup that I don't have to go to the store for 2.5 hours on a Sunday. If they can guarantee my dairy has two weeks of dating and then my produce is fresh, I might bite at that. So understanding that things lead into something, and then Amazon leads into an industry with a model. That model disrupts the current model and then eventually devours it. So you have to be part of the new model. So this is the slide that I kind of, use their model against them. Use what they're doing and create your own version of it. And that is your best defense to how to maintain the health of your community pharmacy financially against what's threatening you out there. And you guys are already doing this. If you look here, when John opened up, he talked about there's a whole bunch of other threats besides, Amazon and big retailers. There's threats that you're getting from the government. There's threats that you get from those big retailers, the PBMs. There's all kinds of states and legislation going on in certain states about how bad PBMs have been ripping everybody off. The wholesalers, big pharma, these guys are all tied together. This guy owns part of this guy, who owns part of that guy, who owns part of this guy, who owns part of that guy, and they all are in bed together with the government. I mean, that's just the way it is. They all have a stake in each other somehow, some way. Walgreens has a PBM, and they have a stake in a certain wholesaler. And then that wholesaler has a certain stake in a manufacturing company or somebody that produces. So that they're all tied together. And you guys have realized that, meaning you guys, community pharmacy, has realized that for some time, the last decade, and you've already been in survival mode thus far. So how do you add another log on the fire here with the Death Star floating towards you? My concept is something I just pulled from the internet. I found this and I thought that it spoke to me. And I said, hey, instead of being a spoke, no pun intended, over here as one of what I call care areas, why don't you interject yourself in between some of these? So don't just be a single spoke in this care area circle or diagram. Be one spoke, but then jump in between these. So I don't really necessarily think that this is the best picture. It's just one that graphically, pictorially kind of explains the concept of there's different areas of care that we all know of that you offer. You have the behind the counter stuff, you have the front of the counter stuff, you have supplements, you have things geared towards specific health issues. Go ahead and pair up with somebody that is looking at that specific health issue, whether it be a home care, a nursing, a medical facility, a hospital, a primary care office. And if you can somehow interject yourself in between them and the client, that's exactly what Amazon is doing. That's exactly what they do with the conception to consumption model, is they interject themselves somewhere in here and they try to control as much of this as possible. You can do the exact same thing. An example I use down here is after you define your care areas, this third bullet point is what baby boomers are described as, is the Honda generation. You know, they have hypertension, they're obese, they're non-compliant, they're diabetic, and they're asthmatic. And knowing that you have this big wave of population that's going to become, quote, Honda on you, you can identify care areas and then interject your pharmacy into those care areas. So the example that I used earlier today on an earlier session of this was Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee is a grocery store in the Midwest. It's very similar to like a Publix or a Wegmans or whatever higher end grocery store that you have in your neck of the woods, where you can go to that store, you can grocery shop, they have a pharmacy, they have a dry cleaner, they have a restaurant inside of the place. And then, you know, some of them you can actually even get a beer at, depending on the laws in your state. But my point is, Hy-Vee recognized, you know, years ago in certain segments that you were going to have diabetic people coming to the pharmacy probably for the first time. They had just been diagnosed, they maybe were obese, they definitely had been non-compliant earlier in their years, and now that they are diabetic, and they don't want them to be non-compliant again. They want them to help them lose weight. So when they filled that script for the first time or for the next time, Hy-Vee was pushing those patients to set up time with their dietitian. And their dietitian walked them through the grocery part of the store and taught them how to shop. And that was a perfect value add, that they got a whole segment of people to realize that I go to this pharmacy because it's tied to this grocery store and it has the dietitian that I worked with that, you know, works with my doctor. So that's where you would, an example of jumping in between the client and somebody else's services, interjecting your partnered or allied services. Also understand that you can't just live on that Honda wave coming at you of baby boomers that are going through the system right now, that you're going to have a whole nother trend of people that are younger, that are my generation, the children of the baby boomers, and then their children. And each generation uniquely has their kind of own acronym or their own health issue that they're going to go through. You know, my generation isn't necessarily Honda, but for some reason, you know, we have all, at least myself and a bunch of my friends in my age group, you know, we tend to all have some kind of surgery going on at some time or another. You know, our bodies are, you know, I was an ex-college athlete, so a lot of my friends, we have knee or hip or shoulder issues going on. There's going to be a lot of that happening, you know, as time moves on beyond just the aging process, because it was my generation that played sports a certain way, or it's my generation that ate a certain way. We were the ones eating Pop-Tarts and a bunch of junk food through the 80s. That means maybe it's not diabetes, but it's something precursor to that can be treated through more of a healthy lifestyle in partnership with my pharmacist. And then, of course, you know, today's youth, you know, anxiety issues and all the things that go with that. So understanding that you can label your care areas generationally through, you know, what's happening to that age group, maybe perhaps are geographically. You know, there's going to be a definite care area to somebody who's living in a mountain region where they're mining compared to somebody who's living in a desert region where, you know, they're doing something else to the water. So you're going to have all different kinds of unique care areas that you have the opportunity to jump in, because ultimately it is the experience that the folks, the patients coming into your pharmacy, is that's what's going to keep you in business, because speed and convenience, you can match Amazon on that. You can match PillPack. You can match them on how quickly you get things and how convenient it is with your home delivery and things of that nature, because you're already kind of doing that. That was your defense against CVS and Walgreens. That was your defense against a drive-through window, was, hey, we'll deliver it to your house. So you have those mechanisms in place, or hopefully you do. And if you're not, you're creating those mechanisms to create a MedSync program and deliver drugs straight to somebody's house. And it's very convenient for them, but it's the experience that really is the niche. It's the little X-Wing fighter here to this giant space station Death Star. This is where you can beat Amazon head on, meaning, and when I talk about experience, I'm not talking about what you know. It is the experience of the patient who comes into your pharmacy. You know, what kind of value are you adding to their experience with you? Just like that dietitian walking around, somebody's never going to forget that. They're never going to forget if they have a positive experience, an intimate experience, something they can't get anywhere else. That is jumping in front of those care areas and making sure that your patients are taken care of beyond simply filling the script. Because if it's just simply filling the script and reading the directions, Amazon's got you beat. But if it's filling the script, reading the directions, and then walking the store with that patient and offering other products or solutions for their unique problem, then or diagnosis, then you have something going there. You have that relationship tied up. And so you can do that in lots of different ways. But in general, you got the speed, you got the convenience, but the chink in the armor, your attack plane is the intimate experience that they can only get, the value add they can only get from your store. And you got to create that ad. You have to be creative and go back and find out what your carriers are and get in front of those carriers. Do not let them define your pharmacy. So if you simply just do what others are doing in your industry, if you just go and do exactly what everyone else is doing, and you go to some vendor show and you hear everybody's doing this, and so you do the same thing, and you're not the first there, you know, a new model is going to come along and they're going to eat your lunch. And that's not gloom and doom. That's just the way it is. You have the chance to be innovative. You have the chance to create something that nobody else is doing, or maybe a few are doing, but you're one of the first in, and that's your way. And that's your way to defend yourself against Amazon and PillPack and that market share, but it's also a way to grow your business. Those initiatives tend to take a little bit of capital. We can talk about that if you want. Data Rhythm can deliver, 20% reduction to your inventory, and you can use that cash to do other things, and your fill rate will still maintain or get better, and your turns will get better. And then John's got some ideas too of things you guys can do to help defend yourself against this, because it is coming. There's no stopping this. The model for pharmacy is going to change, and it's going to be driven by this Haven Amazon model, because they're going to redefine everything. So, John?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So, because one of the, Dan and I were talking before, we don't want to be all doom and gloom. As I mentioned at the beginning, these are very turbulent times in pharmacy. But just a couple thoughts I want to leave you with. And as I'm doing this, if you want to type up any questions, feel free. But there was years ago, I attended a long-term care seminar put on by NCPA, and a lady there named Patty Crawford was she was the main host, and she would use the term. So she's a long-term care specialist pharmacy, and I'm not saying you need to jump into long-term care, but she used the term purple cow. Okay, you need to find a purple cow, or be the purple cow. And what she's talking about is, if you were driving past a field, a farm, and there's all these cows in a field, which one would stand out? Right, it would be the purple cow. And so it's purple cow opportunities. That's just a great term. So I'm citing her. Patty Crawford's one of the thought of it, but not me. But I just wanted to point that out. But things that just to give you some specific examples. And now we don't have all the answers here, Dan and I, but to give examples of what he was talking about. What can you do that Amazon's not going to be able to do is what it comes down to, right? So an area that was a bit scary for a while, but I think has gotten a little bit less scary over the last couple of years. Diabetic footwear, for instance. Amazon's not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to fit the shoes. Now, I know there are some state laws that are a little bit more stringent than others, but overall, Diabetic footwear can be an area where, again, you can generate some extra revenue, even if you're not, whether you're doing Medicare or not Medicare. Again, areas Amazon's not going to be able to, you know, to, to compete in. And then, I'm a big fan, and we have, and if you at any point want more information on this, feel free to reach out to me. Other items that, high margin cash items. We've partnered with some companies offering drug testing kits. With the opioid crisis going on, it's a chance for you to get into the community. Help concerned parents and employers, test for, if they're taking drugs. CBD, I know it's a very controversial topic right now, but most states will allow you to do some form of it. If not the oils, the creams. That's another company we've partnered with. We have a company we've partnered with through that. Again, feel free to contact me for more information on that. But these, again, cash items. And remember this, statistically, and I'm pretty sure it's still the same. If when people are surveyed, their pharmacist is like the second most trusted profession in the United States. So remember, you got to take advantage of that. You're the trusted professional, and it's okay to make money. You have to make money, because obviously if you don't, your business is going to crash. But use that to your advantage. So if you do decide to get into a new field, if you're not doing diabetic footwear already, or other things I mentioned, CBD oils or any other product, you're the expert. And as Dan had mentioned too with Amazon, to me, they're really not a to me personally, as a consumer, for my medications, not even something I'm going to consider. I have a medicine shop right across from my office, and I went in there a couple weeks ago. I needed some peppermint capsules for my wife. She didn't have any, but she said, "Hey, I can have them to you here the next day," and that was perfect. She offered to deliver them. I didn't, it wasn't necessary because they're just right across the street. But again, that's independent pharmacy for you. They're killing me with service in a good way. You go in there, and even when I've called on pharmacies in person, sometimes I have to wait because the pharmacist is out front talking to customers. So, again, as Dan had said, find the opportunities that Amazon can't, they can't touch you, and that's the key. Dan, I have a couple questions. Is there anything else you want to add before I get to the questions?
The one thing I was at is, it was funny. We were at a vendor show last weekend in St. Louis, and I thought to myself, we're the vendors, and these pharmacists are all walking around us. What's to keep a pharmacist from going into a small business and having meetings? They're the vendor. They're the one sitting there, and people come in and meet with them. And you don't even have to talk about stuff behind the counter. You could talk about your different programs that you have, your supplemental programs, your diabetic program, and if the pharmacist is the second most trusted person, probably behind the doctor, then, why not make some business calls? Why not put yourself out there in those positions where you're going to lock down that building and all the businesses in that building as you're the preferred place to go for whatever? There's no reason that you can't do that. Banks do it all the time. We got credit unions in our business, once a month they come in here and talk to us. And sometimes I don't take a meeting, sometimes I do. I would love for a pharmacist to come into my building and sit down and say, "What vitamins are you taking, Dan? Here's some options that might be better suited for you, and here's why." That's just the type of stuff that Amazon cannot do, and that's only community. Walgreens can't do that, but community pharmacy can. So,
along that vein too, Dan, even offering immunizations, especially if you have a situation where you have a staff pharmacist helping you, one day a week, maybe you can use that day to try to coordinate visits to employers to offer flu shots. Employers don't want their employees getting sick, so that's a pretty easy buy-in, in my opinion. Dan, let me read the first question. First question was, so Amazon is looking to buy out the independents or kick us out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to buy you out. I think, this is just my personal opinion, okay? But what I've seen in the contraction of the market in some spaces and in the growth in other areas, the people that want to buy the independents are the CVS's and the Walgreens and those guys. If you get to where you're a 10-store, 15-store owner and you're really doing pretty well and you're managing your inventory correctly and and you're profitable, those are the books to businesses that the big stores look to buy. That's how they project growth, is they take an existing book because it's easier just to take that over than to go earn that. Amazon is going to, I think, try to hijack your patients, through hey, yeah, they're just going to say, hey, our health plan covers 1.2 million, and where are those 1.2 million going to get their drugs from? They're going to get them from PillPack. Now, at first, they're going to say because they're sneaky. They're going to partner. They're going to say you can get it wherever you want. Eventually, you're only going to get it from where they say you can get it. Yeah. So
that was a good question. I agree.
Yeah, they're going to hijack you. Yeah. So.
Great question.
Was there other questions?
I don't have any other in queue yet. Let's leave it open for another minute. And Dan, do you have any other? Again, this Amazon, it is angering. I know I talked to a lot of pharmacy owners. They're angry at the state of affairs. A lot of stuff going on, but there are opportunities out there. You need to be more diligent, and I still think community pharmacy is a viable business as well. And look, PRS, we only deal with independent pharmacies, so we believe that you can be strong, and we're doing our part to keep you strong. So I hope this was a helpful presentation. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Got another question. How are the Board of Pharmacies regulating Amazon, making sure they ship to states they are licensed with, such as I know they don't have a wholesale license and can't ship into California as of last week?
Yeah, and it's only a matter of time that they're going to be licensed in all 50 states. I mean, it's just red tape at this point. Are you going to tell Bezos you can't sell drugs in my state? It's unrealistic. You're not going to tell those three guys you can't do business in our state. It's just not going to happen. So they're going to find a way, through whatever regulatory body they have to go through whatever state board they have to go through, because PillPack is a functioning pharmacy right now. So if that means they have to open up, a building somewhere in that state that says, okay, that's your pharmacy, then that's what they're going to do, if they have to. But what they're looking at right now and with Haven is they have 1.2 million that they have the perfect sample size. And once they perfect that model and they know who to partner with, who to take over, how to do things as efficiently as possible within that 1.2 million, then it just becomes a scalable issue. Okay, now how do we scale it to 10 million? How do we scale it to 100 million? It just becomes, and then if I was Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'd be worried. If I was a major health insurance provider, I'd be worried, because they're not coming just for fun. They're going to partner, and then they're going to hijack you.
And the other part of that question too, Dan, was how are the Board of Pharmacies regulating Amazon? Basically once they apply for their non-resident license, this is conjecture on my part. I'm guessing that a lot of these Board of Pharmacies, I know that's the way we're based in Pennsylvania. Our Board of Pharmacy is understaffed and overwhelmed, so I don't know that they're going to have the staff to regulate it, so to speak. And you can define regulate, I guess, in you can't define it a couple of different ways, but it's kind of can be a broad question. But as long as they apply for their non-resident license, I don't know if there's going to be much regulating going on unless there's something happening and they're reported. That would be the only thing I can say to address that. Do you have any thoughts, Dan?
Wait till they say, hey, we can help you regulate it.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they go, we can partner with you in regulating this. What Amazon and these guys, they make decisions based on mountains and mountains and mountains of data, and that them not getting a license in a certain state it's a minor speed bump on the Autobahn to what they want to do. The thing that they don't count on is they don't count on community pharmacy delivering that intimate experience however they want to, in whatever unique way. There's no way they can defend that. You are the tiny little fighter that they can't stop, and that's fine. Be the tiny little fighter. Be the one sneaking around, making a great living, taking care of patients in the best way you can. But Amazon is definitely coming. It's already here. You have the opportunity now to defend yourself and probably maybe grab some market share from other guys that aren't. There's some other pharmacies that are going to be slow to adjust, and that's, you can grab market share from those folks as well.
Hey, Dan, there's another same person, kind of like a statement question. Don't we think they pay too much for PillPack, or money doesn't mean anything?
It doesn't matter. It's value. It's 10, 15 years down the road.
Yeah, and the thing.
Think how long it would have taken them to get into. Think how long it would have taken Amazon to get into the grocery business, or how long it would have taken them to get into pharmacy. They got it for a steal. They bought Whole Foods. Boom, they're instantly into the market. They bought PillPack. Boom, they're instantly into the market. They have financing on the back end, and they create a new healthcare entity. Boom, they're instantly into healthcare. And it looks like it's going slow, but when you look back over time, you're like, wow, that happened really fast.
Here's an interesting question came up. Any conflict of interest with them being involved in all areas?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, hang on one second here. Let me get back. You're asking the same question of Amazon that you should be asking of all these guys.
Yeah, that's.
And guess who's okay with all these guys having a stake in each other? They are.
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, and so until somebody comes in there and says, "Hey, this is truly a monopoly, and we really have to break it up," then until you get a bunch of lawmakers doing that, they're just going to keep growing, and they're diverse enough that they don't have to rely on any one thing. They're one of their greatest profit drivers is Amazon Web Services. Anyone doing business on the web somehow is touching that. Then they had this. They just lost a patent on it. It was Amazon One Click, where just to purchase something at one click, that was all their code, and they had the rights for that for 10 years, and it just I think it was 2017 that One Click patent went away. Nobody even knew that was them. So for 10 years they had this patent that unless you were selling something and trying to use that same piece of code and having to pay them to use that code, nobody even knew it existed. So I just wonder how many other patents they hold in the world of technology that they're getting paid on and nobody knows about it. So it's going to get maybe broken up down the road, but it's not until it becomes a huge problem.
I have another question here, Dan. Another interesting one. Will this hurt reimbursement from insurance companies if Amazon creates a PBM?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, if they're creating a PBM, what are they doing? They're doing the exact same thing that they're finding another dot to make money out of it. From conception to consumption. And part of that was here. Pharmacy leads to insurance, and that leads to PBMs. So if they create some kind of, and it might not be a name PBM, because that name's got some really negative stigma to it, but they definitely see the model of the current healthcare system, and they create Haven to redefine their model. So if that's a profitable part of the old model, they're going to definitely rename it and retrofit it to the new model somehow, some way. I mean, why would you leave out a profit driver in a model? You wouldn't. You would leave the profit driver in, but you have to make sure that it's according to the laws of that state. And PBMs are just taking on the chin right now, as they should in every state. They're getting every state lawmaker is mad at them, and they should be, because they're ridiculous.
And another question was, isn't that what the PBMs are doing?
Yeah, it's exactly what did I say? What did I say they're really good at? They're really good at being sneaky. They see a model and they just say, you know what, we can do that better. And here, but let's test it before we know for sure how we can do it better. Let's test it. Let's test it out on this group of 1.2 million, and then we'll perfect our model. In the meantime, as we're perfecting our model, we're going to use the people that we're partnering with, and I'm saying that in quotes, that, hey, we're concerned with partnering with all these people. We're going to use them to give us information we need, and then when the time comes, we'll either take the partner over or we'll kick them out, and we'll just do it ourselves. And here, if people argue with me that they don't do that, Guess what Amazon sells right now? Everyone knows Amazon Basics. They're the clothes. And they partnered with Stitch Fix, and they partnered with all these companies. And then when it came down to it, they said, you know what? We can make deals with these other suppliers, and we can sell clothes, and it's their generic version of clothes. And it's exactly what grocery stores do. You know, you got your 4 or 5 different milk lines, and then you have the store-bought milk. And that's exactly what Amazon did. They said, hey, we want to partner with everybody. Come sell your stuff on our marketplace. And after a little while, they started selling their own stuff on the marketplace, their own stuff, with all the knowledge they gained from selling everybody else's. So, you know, they use mountains and mountains of data to say, you know what, we should probably sell our own pair of shorts. Yep, let's do it. And we create this whole other business, and boom, profit drive goes off the roof, and they just redefine the model. So it's definitely it's scary, but only scary if you aren't prepared for it. If you're prepared for it, it's opportunistic.
Well, very good. Dan, I don't have any other questions in queue. I'd like to thank everyone for dialing in today. Dan, anything else you want to add, sir?
Sure. If anyone wants a demo of Data Rhythm to help you free up some capital to work in those care areas, I'd be happy to do that. My contact information's on the page there. Our system typically costs $200 a month, and there's a small setup fee to build the websites. It's all web-based, so you don't have to be in front of your computer. You can be at any convention, any show, on vacation, whatever. You could pull it up on your phone and see how your inventory is running and see if that capital investment's good for you. So I'd be happy to talk to you.
All righty. Dan, thank you. Everyone, thank you for your time. I hope this was informative, and stay positive and just keep diverse, and keep doing what you're doing, and let's keep independent pharmacy moving. All right, everyone, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Dan, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you down the road.
Take care.